Hello. Welcome back, everyone, to part 3 of the SMART Goals series. In our previous episodes, we talked about how you can make your goals SMART and how you can measure those goals. So in this episode, we will be talking about how you can get your goals to be achievable, but also relevant. As you know, I'm not an expert in the SMART Goals series, but I like to surround myself with experts. So today I brought in an action coach expert. She's a consultant, a coach. Her name is Brianne, and I'll let her explain who she is in a minute. But she's going to be talking to us about how you can make sure your goals are achievable and relevant. And she uses this in her business practices, and she also helps her clients use it. So Brianne, I'll let you introduce yourself before we get started.
Thank you, Shadena. My name is Brianne Salcedo. I am the proud owner of Action Coach Pearland and Action Coach Friendswood. We're a global organization in over 80 countries. I just happen to own a couple of the locations here. What we do, I should say real quick, what we do is we allow business owners the framework and the tool work to be able to learn how to work on their business and to be able to exit later on with a business that works without them. Whether they still maintain the business, keep the business, or sell the business, they have a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without them. And we do it step by step, and actually goals is a huge one. So thank you for doing this and spreading the word. Shadena, I love that about you. I think that you always love serving others and helping others. And so I think by teaching these things really will help women and other people understand how important goals are.
I agree. So let's empower women. So let me start off with the first question. So we want to jump into achievable, how people can make their goals achievable. But before talking about achievable goals, we want to talk about realistically. Sometimes we set goals and we want them to be achievable, but they're not always realistic. We set our high goals and we give ourselves a time frame, and we don't accomplish those goals. We're kind of upset. But sometimes that's because our goals aren't realistic. So my first question to you is, what's the most important thing in making sure your goals are realistic?
Awesome. Thank you for that question. So I would say, with achievable goals, you're exactly right. You want to make it realistic, and there's several ways that you can do that. I'll kind of show those strategies in a minute, but I would say that 2 of the key things is to make sure that you have the tools and the resources to do so. So if you say, I want to expand by $100,000, but you have a 0 marketing budget, it's probably not realistic. So you want to make sure that you have the resources, whether it be dollars, team, energy, time, and the tools, the framework, whatever it's going to take for your goal to come true. First, you assess what is it going to take for that, and do I have that, or can I acquire that? Secondly, on the realistic side, I would say to ask yourself 2 questions. Have I done this before? So perhaps in life we've had many experiences, and you can say, like, I desire to lose 10 pounds this month. Have I done this before? I mean, probably in my past, I've lost 10 pounds in a month. If I said I wanted to lose 50 pounds in a month, I would ask myself, have I done this before? Probably not. And that's okay. But I would couple that with, has anyone else been able to do this before? So even though I certainly haven't lost 10 pounds per month, which I have, but maybe another woman, I'm like a yo-yo sometimes, but maybe another woman could say, okay, I haven't done this before, but has any other woman been able to achieve this? Go ahead and research that. And perhaps you want it to be realistic. So maybe you don't have to set it at 10 if you find out, yes, other women have lost 10 pounds, but let's meet somewhere in the middle. So let me go with, the most I've lost is just a few pounds in a month. I've seen that women have lost that 10 pounds. Could I go with 7 or 8 so it's realistic? And do I have the tools and the resources to do that? So I would just say, really ask yourself, have I done it? Have other people been able to achieve this? And where could I meet where it's still a stretch goal for me? You never want to set your goals too low so you can be like, got it. Because if you set your goal or standard at 10 and you get to 8, you're like, oh, cool, I almost got there. But if I would have set it to 15 and got to 10, it would have been higher than that 8. So you want it to be stretch, but you want it to be realistic. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I like that. And I like how you talked about having the tools and resources to actually achieve that goal. So that kind of leads me into my next question. You've got the tools and the resources to get to the goals, but how do you track your goals to make sure that you're making progress?
Sure. So there's many ways to track your goals. Number one, I would say planning is an essential word. So having a plan for those goals, a 90-day plan. So here in Action Coach, and everywhere does it different, but our framework, we say we have an entire destination plans. We have like, where are you going to end in this business? Where are you going to end in what's your final goal? But then we go into 90 days, we go into every week, and we go into every day. So breaking down your goal into realistic activity. In saying that, we measure things. So a lot of people heard of like KPIs, key performance indicators. This is where I want to get. So I'm going to stick with the weight loss thing because it was the first thing that came to me for, some women do this, but it could be business, it could be personal. So to say I was going to lose 10 pounds in a month, right? November's gone. Oops, I had Thanksgiving. I get on the scale on December 1st. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I gained 3 pounds. And I only weighed myself once. So basically I missed the opportunity. I looked at my performance in December and said, oh, I was up 3 pounds, completely missed it. That's a performance indicator. It's a lagging result of saying we made it or not. But imagine if I had a plan where every day I said, I'm going to weigh myself, I'm going to be accountable to what I eat, and I'm going to weigh myself, maybe not every day, maybe every Friday. By the end of the month, I'm not going to be in this big surprise that I didn't achieve my goal. So I would say that we set a plan with little small goals to make sure that we're not completely off by the time it's time to really measure that goal fully for the month or whatever, to make sure we're doing the activity so that way it actually becomes a gain or a success for us. Another way I would say really quick with the goal is that I just look at what are the steps to achieving a goal, and I call it Lewis. And so I'm glad this is on recording because you might have to rewind it and listen to it again because it's a lot of information. Mm-hmm. But learn about the goal first. What do you have to learn about weight loss? What do you have to learn about nutrition? What do you have to learn about stacking habits? Next is understand. Do I truly understand what I'm trying to achieve? And in that understanding, you're developing the plan for your goal. Next is the I, and you implement it. It's go time. November 21st is go time. Here we go. We're ready to go because I learned about it. I developed my plan for it. I'm ready to go. And then lastly, the S is sustaining it, making sure that you can sustain exactly what you're putting in place. So baby steps, instead of just thinking that you would put this goal in place and it's going to come true, I would say utilize that information.
Such great information. I was actually taking notes as you were talking and you spelled out Lewis. I was like, well, how is she going to spell Lewis? Because Lewis can be spelled multiple ways.
Yeah. L-U-I-S.
Learn, understand, implement, and sustain.
Yes. Got it.
Okay. So that was good information. So let's jump into relevancy. Let's talk about how we can make sure that our goals are relevant. And it sounds good, but what does that actually mean? Can you explain what it means for your goals to be relevant?
Sure. And I love that you use the word relevant. In Action Coach, we use results oriented, but it's very similar. In results oriented or meaning that it's relevant, it means that these goals are aligning with your long-term objectives. So like I said, if my long-term goal is to be a healthy individual in this way, that way, multiple ways, are these small incremental goals matching my mission or my vision of what I desire for business or for self? So we can always, this is why it's important actually, to be honest, Shadena, when you're making these goals, to make a mission and vision behind it. Your vision, by the way, is that long-term legacy of whatever you're trying to create in a business or in your life. This is like the wow factor. This is exactly where I want to end up. The mission is how you're going to get there. So asking yourself when you're looking at your SMART goal, is this contributing to these long-term objectives that I'm driving towards? And if not, then you might have to tweak it to make sure that it's one of the steps along the way.
Mm-hmm. That's actually really good. So relevant or results oriented, what you would call it, is tied to your mission statement.
Yes.
That's actually a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
So my next question would be, how do you narrow down your interest in deciding what goals are relevant and what are not, or what goals are results oriented or not?
Sure. So we say priority and sequencing. So it's important that a lot of times we want to have a lot of goals accomplished. But for instance, especially with startup companies, typically what's needed most? I'm going to put you on the spot. But what do you think is needed most when you start up a company?
What is needed? It's a lot of things. Most people would say financing. I would say the tools and knowledge and education in the field that you're going into.
It is a combination, but a lot of times cash now is important. So I'm building this, I've invested this cash, mm-hmm. I've been able to get some education to at least open the doors or start marketing, but mm-hmm. cash now is typically a priority. So if we did a lot of things, if we just kept educating ourselves and we kept, building, and we had a build out store or a boutique, and we made sure that everything was paid in perfectly and every single item that we sold was perfect, and we spent 6 months on perfection without gaining customers and getting cash now, we're probably not going to be able to sustain at that level. So mm-hmm. I would say to think about priority, like what is going to keep the doors open now. So the priority goal would be cash now, mm-hmm. and behind cash means that you have to market, so a marketing plan behind it. So I would ask yourself, if I was to list these goals out and look at my number one priorities, let's prioritize them 1 to 10 or 1 to 5, and let's sequence them like that and then start going. And one thing to always remember, there's always a lot for us to do as women, as humans, and not to be too hard on ourselves, to say it's like a big elephant. I'm going to take a chunk of an elephant from my professional world. I'm going to take a chunk of my elephant from my personal life, and I'm going to continue to get better and better and reassess my goals, and then probably make new goals. So it all doesn't have to happen at once. So select the 2 or 3 most powerful goals professionally and personally. Start there and get it to 100% before you try to bring on the next thing. Because if not, then we all end up with a bunch of 20%, 30%, halfway mm-hmm. done goals. And then you feel like you're on this super merry-go-round, going mm-hmm. round and round. Like, I remember I had these goals to finish, never did, but mm-hmm. then I saw a squirrel outside, mm-hmm. jumped on that, started with that goal, and then you never get completion. Mm-hmm. So I'd say follow through of your goals and prioritizing what's most important. And sustaining, remember that last step in Lewis. Sustaining. Mm-hmm. Yes. If you activate this, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I like that, and I can confess that's how I started off with my business. I was wearing myself too thin. I had all of these goals. I would start one goal and I would try to accomplish that goal. And when I didn't accomplish that goal, I would move on to the next goal. And so it's like I always wanted this instant gratification. And when I didn't get it, I would move on to something else. And I was always disappointed in the end because I was never able to get anything off of the ground. Because just going from one thing to the next. And that's what I also see a lot of entrepreneurs doing. They call themselves serial entrepreneurs.
Yeah, they're just serial doers a lot of times.
Yeah, serial doers. And what's that quote that say, jack of all trades, but really the jack of no trade?
Yeah.
Kind of like that.
Master of nothing.
Master of nothing. Yes. So this was so good, Brianne. This has been so helpful. You gave us a plethora of information and tools and resources that we can use in not just our business, but our personal lives and our careers. So we thank you for coming on to our show.
Yes, it was a pleasure. I will come anytime again. Just ask.
Okay, thank you so much, and look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you, Shadena.
Thank you.